The new nanny had my late daughter's exact laugh, and I couldn't figure out why that terrified me. My name is Carol. I'm 68, and I lost my daughter Meredith 11 years ago in a car accident that also took most of the joy out of my house for a long while after. My son Peter was the one who pulled our family back together. He married a wonderful woman named Julie, and 3 years ago they had my grandson, Eli. Eli is the light of my life. So when Julie mentioned they were hiring a part-time nanny to help while she went back to work, I was happy for them. I just didn't expect to feel the way I did the first time I met her. Her name was Sasha. 24, soft-spoken, wonderful with Eli from the very first afternoon. But when she laughed at something he said, it stopped me cold. It was Meredith's laugh. Not similar. Identical down to the little catch at the end of it. I told myself I was imagining things. Grief plays tricks, and I'd learned that the hard way over the years. But it kept happening. The way she tilted her head when she was thinking. The way she chewed the inside of her cheek when she was nervous, exactly like Meredith used to. I started watching her more than I probably should have. One afternoon, I saw a small birthmark on her wrist while she was reaching for a juice box, the same odd little crescent shape Meredith had, in the same place. I told myself it was coincidence. Birthmarks aren't that rare. But that night, I couldn't sleep. I went looking through an old box of Meredith's things, and near the bottom, I found something I hadn't looked at in years, a folder of hospital paperwork from the year before the accident. Meredith had been pregnant, briefly, and had placed a baby for adoption, something our family had agreed, painfully, never to speak of again after everything fell apart with the birth father. I had pushed that memory so far down I'd almost convinced myself it hadn't happened. I did the math. Sasha would be exactly the right age. I didn't say anything to Julie or Peter, not yet. I needed to know I wasn't chasing a ghost out of grief. So I did something I probably shouldn't have. I asked Sasha, gently, over tea one afternoon while Eli napped, whether she knew anything about her birth family. She went quiet for a long moment, then told me she'd actually been trying to find out for years. Her adoptive parents had been wonderful, but she always felt like something was missing. She had a name for her birth mother from an old, half-sealed record. Meredith. I nearly dropped my cup. For a few days, I didn't know what to do with what I'd learned. Meredith had never gotten to raise this child, never gotten to watch her grow up, and here she was, 24 years old, sitting in my kitchen, holding my grandson, completely unaware she was looking at her own nephew. I finally told Peter. He was stunned, then quiet, then, to my relief, moved almost to tears. He hadn't known about the adoption at all. Our family had kept it from him too, at Meredith's request, back when he was still a teenager, and things were already so fragile. We told Sasha together. I watched her face shift from confusion to disbelief, to something that looked like relief more than shock, like a piece of her had finally clicked into place after a lifetime of not knowing why she felt unfinished. Here's the twist I never saw coming though. When Sasha's adoptive mother found out we'd connected, she reached out to me directly. Not angry, but nervous. She told me something she'd never told Sasha, that the adoption hadn't gone through a standard agency at all. It had been arranged privately, hastily, by someone in Meredith's life who wanted the baby placed quickly and quietly, and paid extra to make sure the record stayed sealed. That someone, it turned out, was the birth father, the same man our family had cut off contact with entirely after the accident, believing he'd simply disappeared out of guilt or cowardice. He hadn't disappeared. He'd been the one pulling strings the whole time, making sure Sasha's trail led nowhere back to us, for reasons that still aren't entirely clear even now, though I have my suspicions about wanting to avoid any of Meredith's estate or our family entirely. Sasha took the news hard, but she also finally had answers to a lifetime of half-truths. And through it all, Eli got something he'll only understand once he's older. An aunt, hiding in plain sight, who loved him before she even knew what she was to him. We still don't have every answer. But for the first time in over a decade, I feel like a piece of Meredith came back to us, not as a memory but as someone very real, sitting across the table, laughing that same impossible laugh. There was one more twist waiting, though, one that took another 2 months to surface. Going through the adoption paperwork properly with a lawyer, to make things official between our families, we discovered the birth father hadn't just arranged the adoption quietly. He'd also, without any of us knowing, named Sasha as a partial beneficiary on a life insurance policy years ago, one he'd apparently taken out not long after the adoption and never touched again. He passed away himself 18 months ago, we later learned, alone, with no other family listed anywhere in his final paperwork. Sasha inherited a modest but meaningful sum from a father she never knew, tied to a decision he'd made in secret decades earlier, the same decision that had quietly, invisibly, kept our family whole in a way none of us understood until now. She used part of it, fittingly, to help pay for early childhood education courses, wanting to make caring for children like Eli into something more permanent than a part-time job. Julie and Peter have since asked her to stay on, not as hired help anymore, but as family, officially, with everything that title should have meant from the start. Eli, for his part, has taken to calling her Aunt Sasha, without anyone teaching him to, the way children sometimes land on the truth before the adults around them fully catch up. I think about Meredith often, obviously, but differently now. For 11 years, grief felt like something closed, a door I could only stand in front of and remember. Watching Sasha grow into her own person, someone with Meredith's laugh and her own entirely separate life, has made grief feel more like a window instead, something I can look through rather than just stand outside of. It doesn't undo the loss. It just makes the loss feel a little less like the end of the whole story. If your family has ever uncovered a secret that changed everything you thought you knew, I'd love to hear about it. And if you want more stories like this one, hit subscribe. We put out a new one every week.